My name is Frank Whitfield, and I'm 61, and I spent 35 years as a pediatric nurse, which means I can read a bruise the way most men read a stop sign last September. My granddaughter, Mia, came back from a weekend at my daughter Rachel's house and would not take off her hoodie, not at dinner, not at bedtime, not in a kitchen that still held the heat of the afternoon. I've spent decades learning what a child's body says when a child's mouth can't. So I didn't yell, and I didn't call my family. I took photographs. I drove her to urgent care. I wrote down every time and every date the way I was trained to by Friday. Rachel's husband, Greg, had lost the thing he loved most in this world, but it's what my own mother did next, and what she offered me at the end. That you won't believe. Welcome back to the channel where quiet people finally stop being quiet and families learn the cost of the things they buried. If this hits close to home, drop a comment and subscribe. Greg's truck pulled into my driveway right on schedule Sunday evening. He came up my porch steps carrying Mia's backpack and the smile that won him Teacher of the Year. Twice she's wiped out, he said. Big weekend. Mia slid past him without touching him. She hugged her backpack like a shield and said hi to me in a voice I had to bend down to hear. She was wearing the purple hoodie her mother bought her. Zipped to the throat. It was 78 degrees at dinner. She moved her food around the bowl and answered me in single syllables. Which was not my granddaughter. My granddaughter narrates every dinosaur fact and every game of pretend until you beg her to breathe. That night, she climbed into bed with the hoodie still on. And when I reached to help her change, she rolled away and said she was cold. I told myself kids get moody, and I knew I was lying. Because I've watched 100 parents tell themselves the same lie in the same voice. You should know what my life looked like before that week. I retired from the clinic 3 years back, but still pick up shifts. I raised Mia's mother Diane and her sister Rachel alone after their mother passed, and once a month Mia stays with Rachel. That's Rachel's tradition, baking cookies, watching movies. While Greg graded papers somewhere in the background, pleasant, admired furniture. That Saturday a bride moved her wedding up a week, and Rachel got called into the flower shop overnight. She texted, "Greg's got Mia today, they'll have fun." Don't worry, I remember reading it and feeling nothing at all. That's the part I want you to sit with. There was no red flag to see. The man coached 200 kids a year. Monday is bath night in my house. Sacred because Mia treats a bathtub like a private ocean. That Monday she stood in the hallway and said she didn't want a bath, first time in her life. I kept my voice easy and my body low. The way I do with kids who flinch at the blood pressure cuff. Okay, no bath. But we need clean clothes. And I moved the zipper down slow while she watched my hands. She let me. That's the detail that still gets me, like some part of her had been waiting for a grown-up to insist around her left arm. 4 oval bruises in a curve, green-brown going yellow at the edges, each one the size of a fingertip. A 5th deeper on the inside where a thumb would go, on the backs of her thighs. 2 straight parallel lines, the width of a wooden spoon. I stopped being her grandfather for 10 seconds and became a nurse. Because that was the only way to stay standing. Fingertip bruising doesn't come from trampolines. It comes from hands. I made my face flat and steady. Something you can put weight on. I asked if her arm hurt. She said, not anymore. I asked how it happened. Then I did the hardest thing a grown man can do, which is stop talking. It came out in pieces. She spilled paint on the carpet Saturday when it was just her and Uncle Greg. Uncle Greg has rules, she said to her knees. Boy rules, he said. Mom babies me. He grabbed her arm to pull her off the carpet. And the wooden spoon was for consequences. Then she looked at the drain and said the sentence I will hear for the rest of my life. He said what happens at their house stays at their house. I photographed the bruises with the ruler from her pencil box. Then I called the after-hours pediatric urgent care and said the sentence that starts everything. I'm bringing in my granddaughter and I need marks documented. The doctor examined her like she was made of library glass. Photographed the bruises with case numbers in frame. And when Mia said the thing about house rules, the doctor's pen didn't pause, but her eyes found mine. In the hallway, she said it plainly. Colleague to colleague, it stops being a family matter tonight, and here's a confession I've only made to you. What I felt was relief, because I had been here before in a different body when I was a boy. A man in our church put his hand where no man's hand belongs, and I told my own father that same night. There was no mark to photograph. There was only my word. And in our house, my word weighed less than the family's good name. I was made to apologize to that man in our living room. I learned that in this family, the truth needs paperwork driving home. Mia asleep in the back seat. I understood the week ahead the way you understand whether coming Rachel called me Tuesday, and I let it ring. Because caseworkers tell you not to discuss an open report. By evening, my mother, 84 years old and still running the women's ministry at First Grace, was at my kitchen table with her purse in her lap like a small dog. You took the baby to a doctor over some bruises. I'd like to see what all this fuss is. I called Mia down. She unzipped the hoodie herself, pushed up the sleeve, and watched her great-grandmother's face the exact way she'd watched mine. My mother looked at that arm for maybe 3 seconds, 4 fingerprints and a thumb. Then she straightened her purse and delivered her verdict, kid's bruise. Don't make this about you again. Again, that word did the work of a fist. It reached back decades and set a living room down on my kitchen table. I poured her decaf and asked about the flower. Arrangements for Sunday service. And she drove home believing she had settled it. She had no idea about the photographs, the file, or the 9 a.m. appointment already set that night. I folded the purple hoodie into a paper bag. Unwashed, wrote the date on the outside in marker, and set it on top of the refrigerator where daily life couldn't touch it. I pinned the Child Advocacy Center appointment card to the fridge with Mia's dinosaur magnet. My kitchen. My case file. I called Diane in Columbus and told her everything in order, dates first. She was silent long enough that I checked the connection. Then she said, "Whatever you need. I'll sign whatever," and her voice had gravel in it I hadn't heard in years at 11. Rachel finally texted, "You're really doing this to us?" Not, "Is she okay?" Not, "What did the doctor say?" My sister had already chosen her pronouns. And my granddaughter wasn't in them. Then I remembered the doorbell camera. I sat on the bathroom floor and scrolled back to Sunday's drop-off. 22 seconds, Greg's truck door. Mia climbing down slow, hugging her backpack. Then his whole hand wrapping her left arm and hauling her up my steps like a bag of mulch. His voice catching on the microphone, "Quit the crying or I'll give you something to cry about." Left arm, exact arm. He did this on my own porch in the open. Because it never crossed his mind that anything would come of it. Men like Greg don't hide. Because they've learned they don't have to. The whole town was his character witness. And so was my mother. I saved 3 copies and went to bed knowing tomorrow my granddaughter would talk to a stranger behind a one-way mirror. And I would find out how deep this went. The Child Advocacy Center sits in a converted house painted the color of butter. A woman named Carrie got down on Mia's level and explained it to me in the hallway. 1 interview. Recorded so a child never has to tell it twice. No leading questions. No grandfather in the room. I watched from behind the glass. Both hands pressed against the frame like I could hold the room steady from outside it. The report later put it in flat language that hurt worse than screaming. Child disclosed that the uncle enforces. Boy rules when alone with her. Child described being grabbed hard enough to make her teeth click. Child described being struck with a wooden spoon. Child stated the uncle said what happens at their house stays at their house. Then Carrie asked softly if Uncle Greg had rules just for her. Mia said, "No." Easy as a spelling word. "He does the arm thing to the boys at practice when they cry. You're not supposed to cry on the team. 200 students a year, 9 seasons of baseball, a whole town fighting to get their sons on his roster. And a locker room where crying had consequences. My granddaughter wasn't the first. She was just the first one whose grandfather charts for a living at the county office." The caseworker went through my photographs, my written timeline, and the video twice. "Documentation this clean I don't see twice a year," she said. I told her I chart for a living. "It's the only thing my hands know how to do with fear." We signed a safety plan on the spot. No contact between Mia and Greg Hensley. Pending investigation, Diane's consent came back by email before the ink on mine was dry. Then the caseworker paused the way I know from my own bad news doorways. "There's something you should know about the school that night." Before she could finish telling me, my family got to it first. Rachel sent a message to 14 relatives. "Just so everyone hears it from me first, Mia fell off the trampoline Saturday. Kids get banged up, And Dad's unfortunately going through a hard time since retirement and needs attention right now. We love him. Please pray for our family. My own daughter had already written the ending she wanted. She just didn't know I already had the file, the video. And a caseworker who'd seen enough of these families to know exactly what a cover story sounds like. That's where I'll leave it for today. What my mother offered me at the end. And what happened when the school's own file landed on the detective's desk is coming in the next part. If you want to see how far this went, subscribe and I'll see you there.